Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are doing something that I think is going to speak directly to your soul.
Or at the very least, your stomach.
Hey, right. We are analyzing the world's most beloved sugar rushes. And I want you to think about this for a second. Why is it that no matter where you are in the world, I mean, a fancy restaurant in London, a diner in New Jersey, or just scrolling TikTok in Tokyo,
The same 5 desserts just keep showing up.
the same five?
It's a fascinating thing, isn't it? You have thousands of years of culinary history, millions of recipes, and yet somehow humanity has kind of collectively decided on a big 5.
A global consensus on comfort food.
That's a great way to put it.
So we are talking about the Titans, the
Exactly.
heavyweights, tiramisu from Italy, the classic New York-style cheesecake,
The French crème brûlée.
the Ottoman powerhouse that is baklava, and of course the ultimate American comfort food, the brownie.
The big ones.
Now, I've read through the research stacks you put together, and what really struck me is that we're not just, talking about recipes today.
Yeah. No, absolutely not. If you just want a recipe, you can Google it. Our mission today is to really deconstruct these icons. We want to understand the history, which is often way newer than people think, and maybe more importantly, the chemistry.
Because baking is chemistry.
It's edible science.
Here.
Precisely. We've pulled together some serious chef secrets from our sources, things that explain the difference between a good dessert and a great one.
And it's usually just a tiny little detail.
It is, and that detail usually comes down to understanding how molecules behave under, heat and stress.
What I found really cool looking through the notes is that even though, say, a delicate French custard seems to have nothing in common with a dense American brownie, they share some DNA.
They really do. They all rely on pretty humble ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
Flour, sugar, eggs, dairy.
Well, nothing too exotic.
Right. But the other common trait, and this is the one that trips most home cooks up, is time, patience. Almost every single one of these desserts requires you to wait, to let things set or rest or cool before you can enjoy them. And that waiting period is usually where the real magic happens.
That's the hardest part for me. I'm the guy burning his tongue on the brownie because I can't wait 10 minutes.
We've all been there.
But let's get into it. Let's start with the one that feels like it's been around since, I don't know, the Roman Empire, but it really hasn't. Tiramisu.
The Italian classic.
The name itself is so functional, right? Tiramisu. It literally translates to pick me up.
Or pull me up, cheer me up. Yeah, it's all about that caloric and caffeinated jolt you get from the espresso, the sugar, the fat. But you mentioned the Roman Empire.
And the sources were pretty definitive on this.
Oh, yeah. Here's the reality check. Tiramisu is a baby. It's not Renaissance food at all.
Not even close.
Not at all. While there are layered desserts in Italian history, tiramisu as we know it, it probably came from the city of Treviso in the Veneto region as recently as the 1960s, maybe even the early 70s.
So it's younger than the Beatles.
It's younger than the Beatles.
That is wild. It feels so established. Well, if it's that new, it must be the chemistry that made it take over the world so fast. What's actually going on in that dish?
So it's really a study in fat and moisture management. You got mascarpone cheese, which is different from cream cheese.
How so?
It's made by coagulating cream with acid, so to have this massive fat content, like 60 to 75%. You mix that with egg yolks beaten with sugar.
Okay, let's pause on the eggs, because the traditional recipe uses raw eggs. But I noticed the chef's notes in our research suggested a workaround for safety that actually makes it taste better.
Correct. In a high-end restaurant, raw eggs are fine. The turnover is fast. But for a home cook, or if you're serving someone who's pregnant, the sources recommend a technique called pâte baume.
This is where you cook the yolks.
Exactly. You whisk the egg yolks and sugar over a bain-marie, a double boiler, until they hit about 60 degrees Celsius. It pasteurizes the eggs so it's safe. But chemically, the heat helps dissolve the sugar completely, and it traps air bubbles.
So it makes it fluffier.
Not just fluffy, but stable. You get this rich, velvety, stable foam that's way better than just tossing in raw yolks.
Okay, so we have this rich cream, but the heart of the dessert is the biscuit, the savoiardi.
The ladyfingers.
Yeah.
And this brings us to the most common failure point, the soggy biscuit trap.
Oh, I have definitely been a victim of this. You take a bite and it's just watery. It's so unappetizing.
It's a failure of technique. The biscuit is basically a dry sponge. Its job is to hold coffee. But if you hold a sponge under a tap,
It saturates instantly and falls apart.
right. So the chef's notes are super specific. First, your espresso has to be cold. If you dip a biscuit in hot coffee, The heat just melts the sugar in the cookie. It disintegrates.
Okay.
Second, the dip is literally a touch and go.
We're talking less than a second.
Oh, yeah. One side, flip, out. You want the coffee to penetrate maybe halfway, leaving a little dry core in the middle.
Yeah.
The rest of the moisture will migrate from the cream while it sits.
The time element again?
There it is. You layer it all up, but you absolutely cannot eat it then. If you eat tiramisu right away, you're just eating wet cookies and cheese.
It's disjointed.
Totally.
Yeah.
You need at least 6 hours, ideally a full day, for the moisture to equalize. The biscuit creates a cake-like texture by absorbing liquid from the cream.
So the fridge is kind of like a slow-motion oven.
That's a great way to put it. It's fusing the layers.
All right, let's travel northwest from Italy. We're trading that caffeine buzz for pure texture. We're going to France. Crème brûlée.
A true heavyweight. And unlike tiramisu, this one actually has deep roots. It's been in French cookbooks since the late 17th century.
Though the Spanish will argue they invented it with crema catalana.
And the English will claim it as Trinity cream. It's a whole pan-European dispute. But the version we know, the vanilla custard with the hard top, that's distinctly French in style.
And for me, this dessert is entirely about the sound, you know. Crack.
The acoustic signature of a good dessert.
Yes. It's that contrast. You have to break through this glass ceiling to get to the velvet lounge underneath.
And that contrast is the whole engineering challenge. You need the custard perfectly cold and smooth, and the caramel hot and brittle. Structurally, the custard is an emulsion of water, fat, and protein.
And the notes mention tempering as the make-or-break step. Can you break that down?
Sure. You're basically mixing hot cream into egg yolks and sugar. If you just dump boiling cream onto the yolks,
You get sweet scrambled eggs.
gritty and gross. Tempering is pouring that hot liquid in a thin, steady stream while you're whisking like mad. You're slowly raising the temperature of the eggs so the proteins can unravel gently without seizing up.
It's like you're acclimating the eggs so they don't panic.
Exactly. And then for that restaurant quality silkiness, there's one non-negotiable step. The sieve.
You have to strain it.
You must. Even with perfect tempering, you'll have tiny bits of stuff. Straining it through a fine mesh makes it absolutely uniform.
Okay, now the baking. The sources kept mentioning a water bath. Why can't I just put the ramekins in the oven?
Because ovens are aggressive. You want to bake this low and slow, maybe 130 Celsius, but air is a poor conductor of heat, so you get hot spots.
So the water.
Water buckers the heat. It can't get hotter than 100 degrees before it turns to steam. So by surrounding the ramekins with water, you guarantee the sides of the dish cook gently. It keeps the edges from turning to rubber while the center is still raw.
That's so smart. It's a heat shield. Okay, so we bake it, we cool it. Now, the fun part, the fire.
The pyrotechnics. You sprinkle sugar on top, and here's a pro tip. Turbinado or Demerara sugar is great because the crystals are bigger.
And you have to do this right before you serve it.
Immediately. This is so crucial. Sugar is hygroscopic. It attracts water. If you torch it and let it sit for an hour, moisture from the custard seeps up, and that glassy crust dissolves into a sticky syrup. You lose the crack.
So if I'm at a restaurant and the top is cheery.
It means they torched a batch at 5 p.m. and served you one at 7. It's a cardinal sin. Send it back.
Harsh, but fair. You're paying for the crack. Okay, let's jump across the ocean. We're going to my personal weakness. The densest item on the menu. Cheesecake. New York style.
A beautiful block of deliciousness. Now, humans have been mixing cheese and honey since ancient Greece. But the New York style is a 20th century invention. And it all comes down to one thing.
The invention of commercial cream cheese?
Exactly. A dairyman in New York was trying to replicate French Neufchâtel, and he accidentally created the dense, high-fat cream cheese we all know. That became the base.
So we're building this thing. We've got a biscuit base. And then the filling is cream cheese, sugar, eggs, maybe some sour cream for tang.
The sour cream is key. It adds moisture and relaxes the proteins. But the number one enemy of the home baker is the cracked top.
The Grand Canyon right down the middle. I always thought that was just bad luck.
It's never luck. It's physics. There are 3 culprits. First, ingredient temperature.
Everything has to be room temperature.
Absolutely. If your cream cheese is cold, the fat is solid, and you had to beat it like crazy to get the lumps out.
And speed is bad here.
Speed is very bad. It whips air into the batter, the air bubbles expand in the oven, the cake rises like a souffle, and then it collapses. And when it collapses, the surface tears apart.
So slow mixing, no air.
Slow and low. But the third tip from our sources was the most important for that perfect surface. It's all about the cooling process.
The door jar trick.
Yes.
Yeah.
A cheesecake hates thermal shock. If you take it from a hot oven straight to a cool kitchen, the rapid contraction will just rip the structure apart.
So you let it down gently.
You turn the oven off.
Yeah.
You crack the door open an inch. I use a wooden spoon to hold it. And you just leave the cake in there for an hour.
Let it chill out.
Literally. And then it goes in the fridge. And again, patience. A warm cheesecake is just wrong. The texture isn't right. It needs to chill for at least 6 to 12 hours for the fats to solidify.
I'm really sensing a theme here.
Oh.
If you want good dessert, you cannot be in a rush.
Is the golden rule.
All right, let's stay in America, but move to something a little less high maintenance, maybe. The brownie.
Ah, the great texture debate.
Right. Fudgy versus cakey.
It's a fierce debate, but I think we can agree the fudgy camp is winning the popularity contest. A brownie is weird. It's not quite a cake, not quite a cookie.
So if I want that dense, fudgy, almost truffle-like texture, which is the superior texture, let's be honest, what's the chemistry there?
It starts with a high fat-to-flour ratio. Lots of butter, lots of chocolate, very little flour. But the technique is the opposite of a cake.
In a cake, you cream butter and sugar to get it fluffy.
Right, we don't want fluffy. So for a brownie, you melt the butter and chocolate together. But here's the secret for that shiny, crinkly top that everyone loves.
Yes, that paper-thin crust. How do you get that?
That's a meringue layer. You get it by beating the sugar and eggs together until they're pale and thick before you add the flour. It creates this thin layer of protein and sugar on top that dries out in the oven.
Okay, so beat the eggs and sugar well, but then?
Then you stop. Once the flour goes in, you barely mix it.
Why? Gluten?
Gluten. The more you mix, the more you develop gluten, which makes things chewy like bread. We want tender fudge.
Yeah.
So you fold the flour in just until it disappears.
And the baking time? I feel like brownies go from raw to dry in 30 seconds.
It's a very narrow window. And the toothpick test is different. With a cake, you want it to come out clean. With a brownie, if the toothpick is clean...
If you fail, you've gone too far.
You failed, exactly.
Yeah.
You want it to come out with moist crumbs clinging to it because it continues to cook after you take it out.
Carryover cooking.
Yep. And if you try to cut a warm brownie, it's just a mess. You have to let it cool completely in the pan. The cocoa butter has to solidify and hold it all together.
That is torture. The smell of baking brownies is maybe the best smell in the world.
If you want a clean slice, you wait. If you want to eat warm sludge with a spoon, well, that's also a valid life choice.
Fair point. Okay, finally, let's head east to the Ottoman world for the king of sweets, baklava.
This is probably the most labor-intensive one on the list. Baklava is this massive cultural fusion, Central Asia, the Middle East, Anatolia. But the modern form really crystallized in the Ottoman palace kitchens.
The notes mention something called the baklava procession.
The baklava aria, yeah. It was this huge state ceremony. On the 15th day of Ramadan, huge trays of baklava were paraded out of the Topkapi Palace and given to the janissaries, the elite soldiers.
That puts my office donut run to shame. Here is your tray of pastry. Please try not to overthrow the government.
Pretty much. And physically, this thing is a beast. We're talking 40 layers of yufka, or phyllo dough.
40, is that like a hard rule?
Tradition says so. And between every single layer, you have to brush clarified butter.
Why clarified? Why not just melted butter?
Ah, crucial chemistry point. Butter is about 80% fat, but the rest is water and milk solids. If you use regular butter, the water steams the dough and makes it soggy. And the milk solids burn.
Right, because it bakes for a long time.
A long time. You'd get these black, bitter specks. Clarified butter is pure fat. It makes the pastry incredibly crisp and golden.
Okay, so you layer dough, butter, nuts, walnut, or pistachio, and bake it. But the real magic is the syrup.
This is the big aha moment for baklava. The syrup science. And there is one golden rule.
Which is?
Temperature contrast.
Right.
You must pour cold syrup over hot baklava.
Hot syrup over cold baklava.
Exactly. You can't do hot on hot. If you pour boiling syrup on boiling pastry, you create a steam bath. The dough just turns into a soggy mush.
You completely destroy the crunch.
Instantly. The temperature contrast creates this vacuum effect. The pastry just drinks the syrup, but the shock keeps the layers crisp. You can actually hear it hiss.
And then, I'm guessing we wait.
You are guessing correctly. It needs hours to absorb that syrup. If you eat it right away, it's just dry pastry sitting in sugar water.
This has been such a cool walkthrough. I feel like I actually understand why these desserts work now. It's not just, a sugar addiction. There's real craft here.
Absolutely. And if we look at the big picture, the secret ingredient in all 5 of these icons, it isn't some rare spice or fancy chocolate.
It's patience.
It really is. Tiramisu and cheesecake need a night in the fridge. Brownies need to cool down. Crème brûlée needs to chill before you can torch it. Baklava needs time to drink.
It's kind of a nice reminder in our, instant gratification world. The best things are actually worth waiting for.
And worth understanding. When you know why you're tempering the eggs, the process stops being a chore and starts being a craft. You're not just following instructions, you're managing a chemical reaction.
So here's our challenge to you. Next time you're out or next time you're feeling brave in the kitchen, pick one of these 5. And don't just eat it, pay attention to it. Look for the crack in the brûlée. Check the crumb on the brownie. See if you can taste the patience.
And maybe, just maybe, let your cheesecake cool with the oven door ajar.
Your guests will thank you. Thanks for diving in with us today. Go treat yourself to something sweet. We'll see you next time.
Go